Okay, so today we are doing shiny objects. Oh. And today we'll also paint this. So I want to show you how to use watercolor to paint shiny objects.
Hi Aditi.
Hi Archana, how are you feeling today?
I'm okay. I was actually thinking, daylight saving ended. So I was thinking it is after 1 hour. Suddenly I realized that I saw some messages. Then I thought, let me join.
Okay, okay. So now it's 1 hour earlier, no? Now it's
Yeah, now it is 11 o'clock. So
Hmm.
now this time is like quite better for me
Yes.
because I should be able to join. Yeah, I joined from my mobile, but I'll be joining soon.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So let me share the images and I can speak about them first. These kind of shiny objects are often used for when we're doing food illustration. And when you have rather bland looking food, then using some kind of metallic receptacle looks better than just keeping it in a regular brown bowl or whatever. Also, there are some containers which are very typical, which when painted with uh, or when you show them in a shiny surface, you can show festivity, you can show heritage. So just the choice of material can change how your picture is perceived. Then cutlery is I guess a sore point with a lot of people. When you are trying to show spoons or forks, it becomes so difficult in an illustration. So we'll try and address that also today. And then it's the color. What kind of colors to put together to show beaten metal or something like this. I don't even know what metal it is. And then using the same kind of technique to make more contemporary uh, illustrations like this one. This is a very famous sculpture by Jeff Koon, Koon. And some months ago, there was a chap who accidentally dropped this in an art gallery, and it cost something like 17,000 pounds or something like that. Poor chap didn't know what to do. And it was all over the media. And then it so happened that people were happy to even collect the shards of that sculpture to take home as with art, everything, whenever you put a story to an artwork, it becomes even more famous. So I suspect that dropping that one sculpture might have propelled Jeff Koons' popularity hundredfold. Suddenly, everyone knew about him because of the publicity it received. So this is a very common topic and in illustration, showing a metallic object which is made out of supposedly an object that is not metallic, representing something that is not even made out of a balloon. So a balloon animal itself is creative expression. A balloon is usually very flexible, and when you show it as a metal balloon, that itself starts playing with our perceptions. So there's a whole interesting idea behind these sculptures. At some point, we can look into that as well. All right, so when you are sketching, choose any of these objects. Just one of them is good enough. Maybe what I can suggest is choose this object and try to block and shade. So in some, you will draw a couple of lines to create these shapes and a few lines to indicate shadow and highlight. That should be good enough. And then we will move on to the kettle first, and then to the Jeff Koons sculpture. No, we should also do the spoon. Okay, let's see how we proceed. So I'm first warming up with drawing that the metallic jug. I'm not making the picture too large. So start off with simple shapes. I hope you started off with simple shapes. And then you can expand the shape up. With an oval. And then the compound curve on top, and then start shaping it. So here's a tip for drawing curves. Curves can be very difficult to manage in one shot. You shouldn't even try to do that. So break it up into small lines and use the lines to form that the shape. Because with lines, you can manage angles, you can manage distances, and create almost like a scaffolding. And then it becomes easy to just go over these and create a much smoother shape. This is something you'll encounter every time you have to make long symmetrical objects like vases, jugs, and even at a later stage, faces. Curves can be very fickle. Now, just to illustrate again how you can make the curve of the handle. First, let's see if we've got this proportion right. The line looks okay, but as I see it now, the neck of my jug has tilted way outside of the center, whereas it needs to be a lot narrower. So I'm going to pull this line in further. And I see that by judging how far the left top is from the protruding part of the jug with respect to this base. So if I bring it here, it's a lot more like the reference image. And I can also create a lip that extends outward. I can redraw this line, and then I get some measure of proportion for the rest. So you can see things like ovals at a particular tilt, and you can start drawing broken line shapes. This is much easier to draw than trying to draw this as a continuous line, and definitely not as a line like that. So just make angular lines. So this kind of sketching exercise is a great way to practice your line proportion, um, understanding shapes, spaces, and then even things like your detailing can all be broken down. Now, the picture that we have drawn is rather small, so you will be able to just about barely block off a few large details, maybe not really small details. But in that, I'm sure you will find something that represents a highlight, and something that represent a shadow. And that is here you get the opportunity to be able to depict something in the briefest of strokes. Very often, when you make an illustration, you don't have the liberty to, just because of space constraints, to draw too many details. But within whatever is available to you, if you are able to convey medium or material, it's quite a triumph. So this exercise also helps you to distill information and to figure out what you want to show and what you know you can omit. So first and foremost, start with the brightest of highlights, which in this case is over here in the center. You mark out those spots. And then with respect to those spots, you can start blocking in the dark shadows. And notice how the dark in the center patch is darker than the dark just below it and just above it. Once that is done, okay, we have some over here, some marks over here. And now in between this, we have a shade which is slightly darker on the right and slightly light on the left. So here's where our medium tones start coming in. But I'm not going to put too many medium tones. I want to show you that even without all the mediums in, you can get a fairly good idea of the material by a few lines that you show very cleverly. So we are going to go into more details when we do the metallic painting work. Okay, this should more or less do it. You don't need more than this. So something like this will help you to imagine even an object like maybe a glass made out of steel, just a simple shape of a cylinder. And if you want to translate the metal into this, you can use the same things, a little bit on the rim. You have a highlight, and then you have these vertical lines which represent some kind of uh, reflected light. And then everything else is pretty much like we would shade a cylinder. Dark edges, light edges in the center. Lighter areas in the center. Leave the highlights untouched. Then you have few lines which would be objects that are reflected through the reflections. And always have some kind of distortions. You would probably have the reflection of the table or objects in the table, on the table, kept on the glass. And then you have the inside, where the highlights are at the opposite end of the outside. And of course, in all of this, what helps is a shadow. Shadows are again something very tricky. If you don't have a picture reference, uh, it becomes very difficult to imagine the right shadow. But look at the highlight that you've drawn and imagine a line cutting across from there. The shadow will be exactly on the opposite side of the highlight. And depending upon the silhouette of the object, you will have a certain silhouette of the shadow as well. But in general, for a cylindrical object, if you make a shadow that starts somewhere at the base and then extends in a C shape, just on any one side of the object, that usually conveys the right message. Okay, now before we move on to painting, let's try making that silver spoon first. Choose any one of the spoons, the big spoon or the small spoon. We'll try drawing it in the same orientation. Now, I don't want you to look at it as a spoon. I want you to just observe the geometry and recreate that. So first and foremost, we have a circle. I'm drawing the larger spoon. Okay, let me share the image with you and I'll show you where I'm seeing these shapes. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here's our circle. Visualizing a circle always helps because then you can visualize every other shape in proportion to the circle. Okay. Okay, if this is our circle, and if we draw a line going through, oh, I don't know why I don't have a straight line. We start getting some semblance of a direction, proportion. Oh, sorry. So this part of the spoon is less, a little more than half of the circle. And then if we take the whole head of the spoon, now because this is at an angle, I'm not making it straight down. How many times do we draw the head down? So it's almost a 2:1 ratio. That helps a lot. You can use your pencil to measure this proportion also. So two parts is to one part is the globe or the circle of, or the, I'm sure there's some lovely word for this. The handle and the non-handle part of the spoon. Let's just go with that. So once we get the proportions, then we can proceed with the design. Now, proportion is not just about length. We also have to take into account what is the width of the spoon. Here also a lot of times mistakes can be made. Notice how this is almost two parallel lines here, very close to each other. And the width of the spoon, we are able to get that well enough because of drawing this circle. Without the circle, we tend to make the spoons very wide. They're not as wide as we think in our head. The neck of the spoon is also in proportion somehow to the width. So if I were to draw two lines going straight up from the neck on either side of the center line, you'll see where they stand. Then halfway or 2/3 of the way down, the line narrows over here. Then it starts widening, and almost the same distance away on the second half of the spoon, it becomes very wide. And then we have another oval shape here. And this oval obviously will be somehow related to the, oh, where is it gone? Someday I will learn this. It is becoming very difficult. Okay, fine. So we have an oval over here and an oval over here. And you must appreciate that the oval on top is not this wide and the oval at the bottom is not this narrow, or vice versa. They are related. You know? Okay, I'm going to share this image so that you can keep it handy. Okay, so let's go over this. We don't have to keep our spoon tilted. We can keep it straight. This is the circle. You draw a vertical line going through all the way down. It's easier to draw straight lines parallel to the edge of the page than to try to tilt them to a 5 degree or 6 degree, 10 degree angle. Measure this with your fingers. Mark a spot at two times the diameter, and then reduce. Draw a horizontal line through the center. Make these two vertical shapes, and then try to join. And you'll start seeing that you're getting better and better shapes because of that, studying the internal geometry of proportion. The curve turns in quite urgently towards the bottom. Outside it splays out, over here it turns around even narrower than the shape of the circle. Then let's mark the neck and use this oval to now mark the body, the handle, the length of the handle. We have about this size for the oval design. Here is where it starts widening up. There. Again, because this is a long span curve, feel free to draw straight lines till you are comfortable with the shape, and then you can make a smooth line all the way down. Now, once your shape is ready, you're satisfied with the shape, you can erase these lines because now we have to draw the design. We have to mark the design. We also have to mark the highlights and the shadows. Now, when you encounter these kind of very detailed filigree designs in metal, often we are mesmerized by that because somehow, I guess, shiny objects just make us a little crazy. So, what I want you to focus on are just the external lines and shapes indicated by the highlights. We have a lot of delicate floral work over here, just at the start of the handle design. Draw two edges for that design. And you can literally just make some shapes that look like just the highlights in between. You can, of course, make those flowers, but if you'll end up making flowers that look like that, your illustration can look very, well, cartoonish. And there's nothing wrong with that. It might just be not what you expect. So don't complete the lines. The trick is to indicate that there is some design by breaking the smooth surface up, but you don't really need to show what the whole design is because you yourself will not be able to see that part. So just the parts where with broken lines, you can see some shape of a highlight. And continue all around, just drawing those shapes. See? So some places you will definitely see a dark corner, like over here. That you should indicate because this shows the end of one area and start of another. Here again, start of another pattern. I think this can go a little longer. So these designs are easy to draw if you understand how they are, I suppose, even created. So whenever you have a very complicated design in an oval, for example, I just want to show you this. Suppose I have a detail that I want to fill up. And I want to make this look very ornate. So I will start off with some kind of scroll pattern, maybe some S curves, some leaves. And then I land up with some very odd silhouette. In all kinds of cutlery design and all also, if you get this part right, then all you need to do is go around the design. Same is the case with jewelry also. And then this becomes the head of that particular object. And then in this, you can draw a highlight, or as we can see, a reflection that goes around these objects. It starts looking very metallic. And everything that we have done in the earlier illustration like this is available at a very micro level in each of these shapes. And slowly, slowly, this will start looking more and more metallic. You have to leave gaps in between, show some highlights. Like over here, you would have very, very prominent highlight. And along the edge. And then the other thing that also you have to do is once in a while, you have to show a dark to medium shadow. Like this is the dark shadow. I have usually a highlight very close to dark shadow. And then you will have medium shading going towards light because there's a soft shadow on one side. So if you continue like that, even an imaginary design of your own invention can look very real. So here is the same case. You can show these dark patches and then you have these light patches, some dark highlights. And in this case, we have a highlight here, one dark patch coming this way. Right next to a medium tone. And then behind these, in a few places, you will have dark patches. So you will paint in negative around the shapes that are highlit. In some places, you will have a few dark patches. Now, we mustn't neglect the neck and the base or the bowl of the spoon also. And usually you will have some kind of similar design over here, just a broken set or a set of broken curves. Few lines darkened, but you might be able to draw a continuous line from the end of the spoon to the neck of the spoon. You'll see that one edge is slightly dark, so you can bring in a line like this. And then let's focus on the head. Now here, in the reference image, you will see that we have somebody's face seen upside down. He's holding a camera above his head. And I definitely remember there was a movie in which the murderer's reflection was seen in a shiny object in a photograph, pretty much like this. So the shinier the object, the more detailed the reflection. And in most photographs of shiny objects, there will be the reflection of the photographer. It's very difficult to take that off. So often when shiny objects are shot for as product displays, they have a very tight light box in which the camera is or the lens is held in a dark space, and then you can shoot pictures of the object themselves. Here we don't have that luxury. So there's two things you can do. One is look for another picture where you don't have such a symmetrical reflection. It's very boring to draw symmetrical reflections. Or you can manipulate it. Let me just share another image which has less symmetrical reflection. Here's one. Now I'm looking for an image of a spoon that I can see from the top, not from the side. They're very difficult to come by. So the last picture you'll see has got a simpler reflection. It's got a deep line from on one side, close to the edge. So it shows the rim. Then you have a thickness. And then if we build that over you have a deeper shadow on the right. Now, I like to challenge myself, right? So I will leave a very thin sliver of a line somewhere near the edge so that I can show a thickness to the spoon. If we don't do that, then there's a chance that it would just look like a flat piece of paper or just too stark. So the shadow, I think, is darkest in this region. So my thin sliver can be really thin and also gray, and it would still be visible. So closer to the edge, your shading must be very smooth and light. It's a very light hand. And by now, if you're comfortable using the paper stump, you can use that also. So this way you can manipulate the visual to suit your purpose. If you don't find the right reference image, look for bits and pieces of reference images from different images. Okay, how are your spoons looking? Any good? Let me see my proportions. I think I've gone a little off. My spoon could have been a little longer. Ah, nice, Ritika. Looking good. One second, let me just change my view and go to gallery view so I can see everyone's better. Okay, looking nice. Susan's is looking good. Ritika is looking good. Susan, you could do with more light areas. What do you think? It's become a little dark, no?
Yes, quite dark and a little too small because I couldn't put in too many details. So
Ah,
little too small, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. No, but even in that case,
Uh,
you are going to, in all likelihood, make very small spoons. But with
uh,
that small itself, how you can make details is very important to learn.
mhm.
So you don't try to make too much of detail. Like
Right,
drawn over here, just 2 lines or 3 lines with a little dark shadow here or there should be enough to convey the message. You practice only in small scale. Large
right,
scale, anyone can make it, you know.
right,
But considering the fact that an A4 size would be the largest piece that you would illustrate, maybe a recipe or something, and on the
correct.
side you would put a spoon, you won't be making it larger than this.
True, true, true.
Okay. Do you want a couple of minutes to finish your spoons and then we can move to the next object?
Aditi, can you have a look at mine?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, design is looking good. In your case, Ritu, I think you need to put in a few more darker details. Everything is mid-tone, and some dark highlights are missing. So just at the base of some lines, let me just show you. So where you've got this medium size, a medium shade, just at the edge, at one edge, probably at the top of the edge of that shape itself, just make a darker shape so that it becomes more pronounced and it will hug the base of a shape that you want to highlight as part of the design that is raised. On my spoon, the bottom over here is looking very blank, no?
Yeah, but it looks okay, I think.
No, it's not looking as ornate because just that bottom part is unaddressed, I would say. So I will make a broken line edge to show some design. Part of the design is over here, and the remaining is like this, just the edge. I think in my next life, I don't mind being a metal worker. Beautiful design this would be to make. I'm pretty certain they must indulge in almost the same kind of work like a jewelry maker, jewelry designer to make this first part, no? And then they would probably mass produce it.
Your detailing comes out very good, even in the smaller paintings that you make or sketches.
The trick again to that now is to just see I guess the important shapes and draw them, not to draw everything.
Yeah, that's the thing actually. When you end up drawing everything, it just becomes a mess.
Yeah, you can't focus on any one object.
And like you say, allow the brain to visualize on its own, right?
Correct. Fill in the blanks.
Yeah. Two things. I think one is draw lesser, and those broken lines, I think, make a lot of difference.
They do, no? Good.
Yeah. Because they help in filling in the blanks.
Correct.
A lot of artists who draw loosely are able to get this very well. The key things that need to be there, and that's it. And they don't draw any more than that. They do not draw anything more, or they don't paint any more than that. And just by leaving those few things, first of all, they draw very fast, meaning in a few moves everything's done.
Ah.
Second of all, Second of all, like you said, like you have identified the key things that make the shape or the object the object. And with those simple key things, you've left the rest of it for interpretation, which will naturally form the right interpretation.
True.
So I've seen
It's
this. You watched Onmar Will.
yeah. She
Uh,
has.
She has a very good skill of identifying whenever she draws quite. She sits outside and she sketches people, places, all that.
What's the name again?
OHN, Onmar. You probably are following her already. Onmar
Yeah.
Bin, MRWIN. She's an illustrator from UK. She's a Burmese illustrator.
Onmar?
WIN, Bin.
Onmar
WIN.
Win. Okay.
OHN, Ohm's law, OHN, but N.
Okay.
Onmar Bin. And she is an amazing illustrator, Burmese illustrator, but settled in UK. She's
Okay.
very, her knack for identifying the key things to keep. So even if she's looking at a shell, she will only look at the contours that make a shell a shell. And she will highlight those and she'll put 2-3 shades of whatever color, monochrome. If it's other colors. And then she lets it go. And that's it. And looking at it, it's a shell.
How cool. Okay, one minute. I'm gonna look for her now.
Onmar
It's
Bin.
actually fewer strokes, lighter strokes, and
And she's got the point across.
yeah. That theory of less is more really works there.
But you have to identify put. You put the wrong less and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, but no, Susan, you know what? Don't trap yourself into thinking that. Honestly, any of the less is also good. So
Okay.
we assume that she has been able to see what exactly to draw. But if you give it a shot, you'll realize that there are options in that. So sometimes if you show the right silhouette, it works. Sometimes if you show the right color, it works. Like for example, I just saw her pictures. Very nice, by the way. I love these loose illustrations. I'm not following her.
Oh, okay.
So she, oh no, I am following her. I haven't seen her in a long time. Then obviously I'd forgotten that. So when you see, let's say certain, what can I show you over here? There's lots of florals.
Lots of florals, but she also designs these fruits and vegetables and all that for her food packaging illustrations.
Oh, how nice. Beautiful.
Yeah. And she's settled. I mean, a lot of her food packaging in the UK has got her designs.
Okay, so here are the shells you're talking about.
Bluish color ones, right? Blue
Yeah.
color?
This is a video. Okay, wait a minute. Blue color.
Blue color shells.
Let me just share and then I can speak about it. Yeah, so these, no?
Yes.
So in this, what I see, what you're saying is perfectly right. She's got the shapes very nice and the proportions are good. But the colors are very loosely, they're just scattered. And often what happens is that when we see the image finished, it always looks like it's been thoughtfully painted. And many times these loose paintings come out very well if you're not thinking too much
Yeah.
about where to put color.
Yeah.
Just get of course, you need to focus on getting the shapes as well as you can. But even an obvious piece still makes the illustration work because that is the fill in the blanks that works for us. So unfortunately, today I'm not doing that because I want everyone to, I think what happened, stop share, yeah. So I want to be able to show you how to do a fine painting of shiny objects. But I have made loose pictures of stuff like these pots and pans where you get only three tones. You get a medium, you get a highlight, and you get a dark shape, and you can do it. Let's see if at the end of the class, if we have 10 minutes, I'll try to show you one of the pots to make. So for now, shall we try making that Jeff Koon illustration? Or is that a bit much?
Which one is that? Jeff? Ah, yeah, the balloon. Huh?
Balloon? Shall we make that balloon dog?
Let's.
Okay. Okay, so remember, it's all about proportions, shapes, and this is an artifact anyway. So if you get a few lines weird, that shouldn't matter.
Aditi, you'll post a picture of this thing that you've sketched later.
This, yes,
The-
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. A close up.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And see properly.
Okay, now when we are looking at the balloon dog, don't look at it as a dog as much as a bunch of ovals that are tied up together. So you can start off again with drawing just lines. So this is one line for the oval, another line next to each other. You can make these either the center line or the edges of your oval shape. So here are the edges. I like to do both. I can make the center line, and then based on the center line, I can make the edges. And this works well in this case because this is almost like the representation of an animal. After you have got some of these lines going, so the lines also help you in thinking of direction. Let me help you with that. You have length, direction, angles. And these will help you get the right shape, this proportions. Now, let me demonstrate. So I've got two lines in the front, which will help me draw the four legs, I suppose. And I'm drawing with the same technique, making brief lines first to see the proportion. This becomes my unit. And based on this unit, I will now start drawing everything else. Remember that when balloons are twisted, remember that because you will have definitely seen balloon animals, the edges of the balloon are no longer round. They get compressed and they become almost flat till where the two balloons surfaces move away from each other and then the air pushes them away. That is what makes the balloon animals even look more charming. Look for alignment. I've drawn the foreleg here. I was just about to draw the leg in the back, so much lower, but remember to correct and draw in the right proportion. Here again, the angle will help. Visualize an angle that runs through the leg and then draw it. Now, though I'm drawing a straight line, the edge of that balloon looks curved. And the foot ends much higher than I'm seeing it or perceiving it in my head. Then you have the body. Look at the connection between the body and the neck of the animal. And then look at the shape of the outside of the lines themselves. Are they straight? Are they convex, concave? And then based on this, how tall does the hind leg go? Draw additional lines like baselines to see what is the distance between the front legs and the back legs. And at what point does the balloon emerge from the back of the body to form the hind leg? Now, the leg over here, which is still behind, emerges somewhere this close to the leg in the front. So that means I have extended the body of the dog much more than is necessary. So now, after you've done this, I just want to show you that now comes the point where, as artists, we can blow this thing out of the sky. You can completely change the proportions of the face of the dog and make them really large, like this. I'm just demonstrating. You don't have to do it. But what I'm trying to highlight over here is that this is how we can change the existing artwork and make it your own. And it could be a statement also. I could easily, again, because we are artists, we don't have to make our own statements. We don't have to explain anything to anybody. That's the best cop out that I know for art. You can always leave it to the viewers and especially the critics to scratch their heads till kingdom come to figure out what is she trying to say with this. So I have exaggerated the head, and this could definitely be my interpretation of the story that I told you about the artifact being destroyed in a gallery worth 17,000 pounds, and how the artist's popularity has skyrocketed because of that fact. It could also lead to, I'm representing that skyrocketing popularity with a big head, which in literature would mean somebody who's become too pompous, or I'm just making a conjecture. Maybe he's a wonderful, extremely modest guy who farms his own food and loves animals. But I could easily interpret it as gaining in popularity, leading to a potential of swollen headedness, as all artists succumb to sooner or later. So the moment you change something about an existing artwork, you have added something of your own. And that's a pursuit, I think a final pursuit all artists must indulge in. It's all fine when you are making stuff that you see, but a big challenge comes when you are trying to draw something original or of your own. Now here, this is me shamelessly riding on somebody else's artwork. So I'm not saying this is what we aspire to, but this is a personal commentary that I am practicing to make. Like you would have any kind of practice, even being able to make a commentary through your art requires a language and practice. It does not happen without first interpreting something, then sitting with that for a few days or months or years and identifying with that, and then at some point exposing that to the rest of the world. Then you start becoming more an artist, a fine artist. Okay, so I'm going to leave my pig-headed balloon the way it is. And all of you can either do the same thing or you can interpret it your way. All right. Let's take only one element at a time because we are running out of time. Maybe we can paint just one ear. Now, just fuzz out everything else. Don't look at this object uh, as whatever. Don't look at it as a balloon. Don't look at it as a balloon animal, anything. We are looking at only shapes. And now in this, identify the shapes and block them out. So you have almost a rectangular shape on the left. This is the best bit about metals. You have some very, very sharp shapes. And unlike organic material, where the shapes often fuse into each other, colors fuse into each other, in metals, you can really tell them apart. So we are looking only for different shapes. And I would encourage you to separate all the shapes. Many of them you would say, okay, I can just paint over the lighter areas. Eventually, yes, you can do that. But at this point, use this as an exercise to identify what you are in fact seeing when you see this as a metallic object. When you're making the details, certain aspects of the picture will change. You will find some shapes are odd, so you will adjust that. That also is part of the exercise. The more you start populating, the more you start refining, the better your illustrations start becoming. And that happens more and more as you observe and block more and more details. Now, in some places, we have a fuzzy line. We will get to the fuzzy lines and paint them in time. But for now, this is the breakup that I have. Now, before painting this, we need to distill this information in terms of colors and shades. So use a medium and a fine brush. We don't need a large brush today. Break down all the colors you see in terms of colors in our palette. So I have definitely a yellow ochre. I will, sorry, I will mix yellow ochre with black. That's another shade that I can see. There is a little bit of gamboge, but just a light gamboge in the center part. Then somewhere there's a light red, just a sliver of light red along the edge. And maybe some raw umber. So raw umber and this mix of yellow ochre and black are very close to each other except for the hue. Okay. Okay. Now, some places we have to give washes. Let's start with light gamboge wash that goes from the top to the bottom with a few dark spots in these areas and towards the right. So I just want you to see how I'm going to do this. I'm not going to make it too detailed, but just put some color in the middle. In the sections that you want darker, wipe your brush and then spread them in the other areas, just with a damp brush. That way you don't get too much pigment, and much of the pigment remains in only the central area where you need it darker. Then if we break down the color from the top to the bottom, we have this yellow ochre plus black coming all along the edge, part of it going through this section as well. Maybe leave one highlight over here and make it lighter towards the center. So I just want to show you this part as well. Now here's how I've mixed the yellow ochre and black. They're next to each other. I will use this dark color towards the edge and then quickly shift to the lighter shade towards the middle and then blend it. So please have a look. Moving on to yellow ochre right next to it. And because they are related, there's the same color in both, the same base color in both. You can overlap this also. Go all the way down. Just spare a little highlight on the left. And now I've washed the brush, wiped it, and I'm pulling this color in. there is a nice highlight over here, which I'd forgotten, but now I'm making it shorter, but it's still there. Close to the edges. Don't take too much water. Remember to wipe your brush before you do this. And then here, I will be going into these sections as well. There are other colors that will come there. And maybe add a little bit of yellow ochre in these sections. There's a highlight at the bottom. And add the darker shade somewhere like this. And I'm inserting some shadows in the corners as well, the same dark color. So I have now created a nice vignette-like shape. There's just one thing over here that I should have done earlier, but if you do encounter this where the color has already dried, don't don't get too worried. Just go over the entire shape with a light shade, and then take it to wherever you need it to go. If the shade is light enough and you use the same color over it, you will just make it slightly deeper. But if you don't continue it, you will leave a mark over here. Now, since this is metal, even that mark will not make much of a difference. All right, now I'm going to add a dark line over here and insert, wait, I'm going to wait here. Why don't all of you try painting this much? Because otherwise it'll get too much. So I've done two things. One is put the gamboge in the center and merge on the side, and then put the yellow ochre and yellow ochre plus black mixture in a particular manner in the rest of the body. Just do that much and then we will proceed. How are we doing? Should be done by now. Okay, I'm just doing time pass, no? So if you all are done, please tell me. Otherwise, I'll just continue this. Okay. So moving on, once it has dried, I will examine to see if the colors are looking fine. A few places I could do slightly deeper colors, but I'm letting them be. I'm taking on this deeper color here now. I'll add a little more black to it to make it even starker because I can see that it has more range. And start putting in some details. So there's a dark line that comes all the way here. These lines need to be very nicely painted, not in a rush. So take your time and make smooth lines, painting all the colors and shapes in. Keep changing the shapes as you see them. Like over here now, I can see there's a mix of this deep color and also a little bit of light red as I'm coming further down. So these additional colors add dimension. This color is slightly deeper on top. And then as it comes down, it merges a little bit with a yellow ochre, plain yellow ochre. So that creates another dimension. I have another dark line coming from that side. And now basically it's just about filling in some of these details in darker shapes, or sometimes even the same shape through and through. I've missed out on this highlight on the right, but I'm going to probably hint at it by painting a darker shade around that. I suspect that this highlight at the base might be somebody's face. I don't know. There is something dull and light red around this highlight. There's a line that comes from the corner shadow. So at this stage, when you're painting it, it looks like nothing. I'm building the fuzzy shadow by making layers and layers of these two colors. There's a yellow ochre and a yellow ochre mixed with light red. Slightly deeper than I would have liked, but it's okay. And the edges are definitely not too smooth. Keep adding a little black, making it deeper. And now adding in the darker shades. Remember, once you add the dark shades, there's no going back. So take time before you decide on hitting the dark spots. So at this point, I realized that some of my shapes have become a little odd or wrong, but now it's too late. And it's not as if I'm making the shape of a nose or something where it's going to affect how the person looks. So in this case, it becomes a matter of just picking your battles. Here now the color, I think, changes, right? From this deep color to a deep red. And instead of light red, we can use a even a scarlet. And because our base color is so light, this scarlet is going to become fairly dull. Now imagine these things also in as an artist. The reflections also could be designed so that the your artifact looks its best. There are so many things about art that you can control. If I'm not mistaken, there's something about Mark Rothko's paintings which can be viewed only in a certain light. So if you ever go to a gallery where you will see the Mark Rothko exhibit, you will often see it in very dim light. Okay, I'm adding a little mixture of gamboge plus yellow ochre in this section to merge, to bleed the color. And here I'm going to add the same color for more effect, blending it into the background, adding more texture. And here I first put the light color, and then I'm going to take a little bit of black mixed with yellow ochre along this edge, very little, but I'm going to create a bleed.
Aditi ma'am, sorry, I need to leave, but
All right.
happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali, happy Diwali. I'm almost done and I'll
Yeah.
share it on the video and then you can watch it. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Happy Diwali, everyone.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
Now here's something I just wanted to show you. You don't have to do this. When there are very subtle shades, like something's happening over here, you can take a small brush and keep adding color very subtly to one section. Now this is a lot of color, but I'm going to wash and wipe my brush and then use the residual color. It can't be too wet, because if your brush is too wet, you will land up only dislodging the color that already exists and make more texture. But this is just a very, very lightly dampened brush with which I'm smoothing the edges. So in the event that you cannot make like a wash with a vignette, you can try to do this. You can also take just very little color, like this. Just I'm showing you how little the color is in my brush, and go over certain sections to smooth them or fill them with an additional shade. I would say this is maybe an intermediate to advanced technique. You almost instinctively need to know how much paint you have and which colors you can do this on, which not. I'm taking a huge risk doing it on yellow ochre. It's not the friendliest of colors to do this effect. But the trick is to make this on a dry surface and with almost dry brush. And you should be able to do it. Okay, so that's how it looks. So because it's just a section right now, it really makes no sense. but in time, if we continue this, it just emerges, the picture will just emerge. And another thing is, as you start filling in details of all the other parts, you will start noticing a few things that you can add or change in each of those parts as you proceed, because everything is related to one another. You will see something in this part, which you see reflected in that part. And even with all these weird shapes, you start recognizing how they all connect. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. Do you have any questions about this?
Nothing as yet, but it's challenging. Metal is
Yeah.
challenging.
It can be a bit challenging.
Yeah.
I'm fully expecting you to have some questions or doubts. But if we go over it, what are the possible questions if we can think about it? Are there any unexpected colors that you see, any shades that you identify that you might not be able to mix? I don't see that happening. Okay. Are there any ways in which you see color applied in those sections which we have not applied in this one section? So in terms of application, we've done all applications possible, right? So I think you should be fine. The only places where now you are going to be controlling the situation are consistency and the shade you create. So my recommendation is use a rough test piece. Keep checking the first stroke to check for color, the exact shade, and also consistency. You don't want to make things too watery. You don't want to make things too dry. Just to maintain a certain amount of control, only use a medium-sized brush and a fine line brush. Don't go overboard and use a big fat brush, and do one section at a time. That way you can focus on all the shapes and give it your complete attention. Yeah? Okay. That's a very big Diwali present for you. Shiny objects.
All right.
Okay. So I'll see
Thank-
you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Aditi.
Bye.
Have a happy Diwali.
Happy
Happy
Diwali.
Diwali, everyone.
Bye.